It's the Questions Hip Hop Podcast. It's your boy Sean Kantrowitz, and we are doing another installment in our Making Illmatic series, which means you already know I'm about to introduce my co-host, my cohort, partner in crime, podcast instigator, rap excavator, MidaZ the BEAST. Yep, there we go. Traditional sound now. We back. You never know. It's a Russian roulette with what you're going to get sound effect wise.
Track 12, I think it is. Let's go.
We are in the business here of one thing and one thing only, which is picking apart beloved or less beloved rap albums and attempting to see if we can improve them by trimming them down to 10 songs. We're joined today, calling in all the way from South Florida, which might be all the way or very close, depending on where you are when you listen to this. So maybe I shouldn't use geographic tags to describe that. But we got Orion from WDDH Radio. Orion, what's good, man?
What they do, man. Glad to be a part of this with you guys. You guys are doing God's work.
I want to send a big shout out to my man Orion and show him a little bit of extra love in the beginning of this. I met Orion probably back in 01. We had the same job. It was my first job at the movie theater. I was working at a movie theater. And when I met this cat, like I was super in my bag of like, nobody knows hip hop. Everybody sucks. I was definitely in that bag, hard body. And, you know, Orion was one of the first people that I ran into that I didn't go to high school with. That was like, nah, I know fucking hip hop, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there's more people. I had this renaissance of like, oh, there's other people that listen to rap other than the 6 friends that I have. That's crazy. Like, because for a minute, you know, when you get insulated in high school and then that community, you're like, don't nobody know shit, bro. Like, it's just me and the 4 other guys and we out here. But
you thought nobody else was buying those records that you were buying?
No,
like
I knew, but I didn't think they were in Florida. I thought all those people were in big city, you know, and not in Orlando. They were in big cities. They was in New York. They was in LA. They was everywhere. And he was like, nah, bro, like I'm into this, I'm into that. And he's like, yeah, and I rhyme too. And I was like, you rhyme? Fuck out of here, yo, rhyme. And he was like, nah, I rhyme. And he was nice. You know what I mean? So, and he's still nice to this day. You know what I'm saying? I did a show recently in Miami, and the night of the show, I lost my voice completely. Like I was fucked up in the game. This was like, what, like 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago?
Yeah,
I lost my voice completely. And it's showtime. So I get on, I grab the mic and I'm like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I sounded horrible. And I got through like the first song and I looked and I saw Orion was standing there, he was in Miami, and I'm like, I want to bring my man up. And I just gave him the mic and was like, rap over these beats, bro. I'm fucked up in the game. And this motherfucker grabbed the mic and immediately was like, yo, yeah, and it just bars immediately. Like, it didn't take no, you know what I mean? So, fast shout my brother Orion, man. I'm real excited to, and we've like how you and I have talked hip-hop a million times, me and his brother talk hip-hop a million times, had album conversations, the whole deal. So, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Amazing. Love it. So, Orion, you were tasked with bringing an album that you wanted to give the Making Illmatic treatment. And your response was Method Man's second album, Tical 2000, Judgment Day.
Great
why this album? You know, like what does this album mean to you, and what made you think that this would be a good one to put under the microscope?
Man, well, like MidaZ, I'm a Wu fanatic. So I remember when we first met, it was just straight wu-tang talk for like hours. And
facts.
You know, Meth is I always like go back and forth as to who my favorite member is, but Meth definitely is a lot of people's favorite member. But the thing with Meth is when he dropped Tical, he got dumped on, like people not calling it a classic, and I disagree. I think Tical is perfect. The only knock on his first album is the fact that it don't have the Mary J. Blige remix, the RZA version.
Right.
I always felt it just needed that to give it the slight push over to undoubtedly a classic. In my opinion, it's a classic. So I was really hyped for Tical 2 when it was started getting announced, and all the commercials, and like in the Source magazine they had these illustrations of Tical, like the T2 Terminator. So I was really hyped for it. When it finally dropped, I was sophomore in high school. This was 98. So, you know, just starting to drive, it was like my soundtrack of like early days of driving in Miami and everything. And a lot of people dumped on this album too, man. And I feel like it was a little bit unfair for Meth, because they were people to this day dump on this album for stupid reasons. For like, yo, you know, you talking about that album where he's got the bobby pin in his eyebrow and shit, and he's looking like he should be in a Marilyn Manson video. And I'll talk to dudes, like real hip hop dudes, about this album and bring up certain tracks, and cats would look at me with blank stares, like, I don't remember that. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I kind of feel like people just like gave it too harsh of criticism way too quick. The first video being the Judgment Day song wasn't like your typical hip hop beat of the time. So he got he got in an unfair position again. I think this album is real dope. And with what you guys are doing with Making Illmatic, the reason I felt it was a good selection is because it fell victim to the time where like everybody was like putting over 20 tracks on an album. And I kind of feel like this is a good album to reduce a lot of unnecessary tracks, a lot of unnecessary skits, and could possibly be a 5-micer. I mean, it remains to be seen, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the track length, there's 28 tracks on this motherfucker. And there are a lot of skits, to be fair. But even, I was looking at the runtime of the album, and I want to say it's like 70-something minutes. So it's clearly not just skits, because the skits are all really short. There are a lot of songs on here as well. This was a record that I think, to your point, received a lot of attention because it was at the apex of Def Jam's promotional push. All the records coming out on Def Jam at this time were getting strong, heavy push, like in the visuals, in the print ads, in the videos, and this was definitely a moment. Method Man is, even though people could argue back and forth about who the best or favorite member of Wu-Tang is, I think most people will probably concede that Method Man is the biggest star in Wu-Tang as far as like having that charisma and that star power. So I totally understand why expectations might have been a little bit high. Now, I've talked about this a little bit on the show before. I have an interesting relationship in Wu-Tang compared to MidaZ and to you, because I know you guys are in the same boat, because I was not necessarily drinking from the fountain of Wu-Tang as heavily as a lot of my hip-hop cohorts were at the time of this. The interesting thing, and the thing that like makes this episode a little bit weird for me to do, but like I'm not coming in with like the knives out, is that I actually wound up working with Method Man for 3 years out here in Los Angeles. And in a weird way, kind of a fucked up way, I think that helped me get even further deeper into Wu-Tang, just because I was spending so much time working with Method Man. I worked on a television show that he was the host of called Drop the Mic, and he was the host along with Hailey Bieber. She was Hailey Baldwin at the time, because she hadn't yet married Justin Bieber. And this feels like an insane thing to explain now because it just has so many interesting elements, but it was a show in which they were the hosts and they judged celebrity rap battles. And DJ Newmark from Jurassic 5 was the DJ for the show, and they got a lot of people from the battle world and from the underground world to coach behind the scenes and help these celebrities who never rapped, like, learn how to rap. And as a result, I spent a lot of long days with Method Man and had a ton of one-on-one time with Method Man. And Method Man is one of the coolest motherfuckers I have ever met. He is absolutely charismatic, but genuine. He's a great fucking guy. He's talented as hell. Seeing everything that he's done now in his acting and his whole, you know, he's got a whole different career arc. at the time that this record came out, I was not necessarily super steeped into, I'm going to check out all, everything that the Wu is doing with such great attention. And I think that my main memories from when this album came out are seeing that video, sort of being unsure about what was going on here. And I think I was probably one of the people that you were describing where I was like, yeah, I'm not like really checking for this. I've revisited it, especially now in preparation for doing this episode. I'm like, I think that this album is misunderstood or not properly placed in the canon of Wu-Tang and of Method Man. So that's why I was pretty interested to dive into this, and I think we're going to have a good time with it. I'm probably going to sprinkle in more Method Man stories throughout this as well, but we'll get to that when we do. But MidaZ, I know you have a lot to say about this topic.
I feel like, that first Method Man album, Orion is right, it gets dumped on. And I do think that there is a level of unfairness to the dumping on that album gets. I think that album's really good. I think why it gets dumped on so much is because expectations for Method Man were just through the roof when that album came out. He was, if not the most anticipated rapper in the world, one of the two or three, it was like, oh my God, Method Man, you know what I'm saying? So that album, I don't really know, and I wasn't old enough, I don't think, to know what people were expecting from that record. But I guess to most people, it didn't deliver that. I think a part of that, though, is, all these other albums that we consider classics that run from, you want to say 93 through, I don't know, 97. They all have a theme. They all have a story to them in a way. Sometimes it's that they're telling a story. Sometimes but Meth's album's just a rap album. It's just a rap album. He's not taking a stand. He's not telling a story. There's no theme. It's just really dirty beats, dusty production, like some of the dustiest production that exists on record, especially at the time. And then he's just rapping, and he's not even really doing anything. This isn't the drug empire from Cuban Links. This isn't the kung fu story from Genius. This isn't the off the wall crazy shit from Dirt Dog. This is like, it's just rap.
Didn't RZA like lose the beats or something, or didn't they have to redo it?
There was a re-recording of the album. They re-recorded it while the Wu was on tour.
Got it.
But part of that, I laugh when I hear that as a thing, because I'm like, I bet you it wouldn't have sounded a whole lot different. Like maybe different songs, but probably not a different energy. You know what I'm saying? So that's my take on it, because as you go through the Method Man discography, he just raps. That's kind of what he does. You know what I mean? It's not like a real whatever. Even on this record, it's beats and raps. So I think that's why the first record got dumped on. That being said, I think he felt pressure. He felt pressure that the first record got dumped on. I think he understood where Cuban Links stood and where Iron Man stood and I think he wanted his classic. So I'm gonna get my classic too, right? Like I'm gonna make sure y'all holler at me and say, yeah, and that Meth got a classic too. My take. And there's enough on here to have it, but it's bloated as shit. And what's crazy is even like the bloatedness. We've ran into this a couple times recently doing Making Illmatic. There's not a lot of bad records on here, so things that we're gonna probably cut, whether we agree or we don't agree, we're not really cutting bad records. We're cutting the records that aren't the best of this collection. That said, I think that when we finish up, we're gonna be left with a much better album that kind of tells a little bit of a oh shit, to it.
Yeah.
Oh, one note. This is one of the records that this is one of the albums. This has happened to me 3 times in my life, where somebody that was currently in New York called me to tell me that they heard a new song from X rapper. It's being played on Hot 97 and it's crazy. And you need to hear this. And this happened with this record with the song Dangerous Ground. I got a phone call like, yo, they playing some new Method Man. It's crazy. Listen. And it's like holding the phone up to the radio. And I'm like, what is this? And it's, and I'm just going crazy. That's happened to me three different times. And this was the first time it happened. And that's always been a memorable thing for me with this record. Because I went crazy. My anticipation went through the roof.
Right. And to your point, for a bloated album from the 90s, there's not a lot of cringe songs on here. Like, it really is just about separating the good from the better. You know, there's not a lot of embarrassing weak points, I would say.
The skits are the embarrassing weak points. Like, you could just do without 100 skits. But these, and again, like when we talk about some of these albums, the whole, I want to say this to the Making Illmatic universe, especially about opinions that I give. It's about making one album. Some of these songs would sit well in other places. You know, like there's a 2 or 3 Method Man songs in here that we're gonna cut that would be soundtrack songs that would sit great if they were on the next album. There's a lot of that type of thing that plays, but what fits in this record, you know, is kind of the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything MidaZ said, man. You know, as far as thematically, he's right on the money. It's like a lot of the artists had a whole theme going on for their albums. I think with this album, Meth tried, you know, with the whole Judgment, Apocalypse theme. You know, this was like we're near the Y2K thing that never really popped off, but
didn't age well.
Yeah, I mean the only person whose psychic abilities still remain in question is Busta Rhymes.
It's Busta Rhymes,
but it is what it is. He did kind of predict 9/11, so you got to give him that. But yeah, man, I think this he tried to do that. The first one, I think for me, it's always been like a black and white, old school Twilight Zone episode. But I don't think the masses were waiting.
They didn't catch up. They didn't, and I don't think they caught it either. I don't think they.
Yeah, I don't think
got it.
I don't think they got it.
Yeah,
I did as a kid. I was in love. I still bumped Tical, but.
And then what is a Tical? Like, I remember being a kid. Like, what does this even mean? Like, is it, you know? And we would talk about it. What is it? Weed? Is it that? Like, we didn't know what Tical was. What is? And I think you know, album titles matter. Like, album covers matter. That cover was just dark, and all of these things I think factor in. Like, that cover is not iconic, right?
The cover is kind of hard to look at, to be honest.
It's hard to look at.
It's just it not like it's even like an eyesore. It's just kind of like, what am I looking at?
What am I looking at? Right. So I think all of that factors into that first record, and then by the time, to Orion's point, by the time he's doing the second record and he's got this theme, I don't know that was the wave anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little different now. When we like, this is 98. And as we've clearly said, by 98, things were different. You know?
Did we ever get clarification on what Tical is? Because he told me what Tical is, but I don't know if he was just giving me an answer. Like,
let it be known.
So he did something again. Like, I promise this.
Tell us about your best friend. Who else do you hang out with?
I promise I'm not trying to make this like, you know, cheerleader for Clifford Smith hour here, but you know, he was such a nice guy. Like, and this was like my first experience working on a television show in Hollywood and seeing how a lot of people move, and a lot of people who you think are nice maybe aren't quite as nice, and a lot of people who, you know, they just are moving about and doing their business, and you see the difference between celebrity and quote unquote regular folk up close. And on like one of the first weeks that we were all on this sound stage in Hollywood setting up for the show, he was about to leave. They were doing rehearsals. He stopped and he shook every single person's hand, going out of his way, going into other people's offices. Like, he would have had a straight linear line to get to his, like, you know, Sprinter van to take him out of there. And he was going out of his way to tap everybody on the shoulder and, you know, just be like, yo, I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much. And I was like, yo, who is this guy? Like, this is crazy. And I would, over the course of 3 seasons, observe him doing these acts of like kindness. And I once made a comment to him, something to the effect of, yo, like, you really are like a genuine dude. Like, you really like are nice to everybody. And he said, it's Tical. I was like, what's Tical? He said, taking into consideration all lives. I was like, is that, and in my head, I'm thinking, is this one of those things where like it's a backronym where you had Tical and then like throughout the years?
I feel like it might be.
I think it was, bro. I think he was talking about weed in the early days. I mean, this was a time where people were just coming up with their own weed lingo.
Right.
Like Cypress Hill had temples of boom. Nobody called it boom.
Right.
You know, certain people called it Indo. Other people, I think it was just weed. What's that shit that they be smoking?
Yeah.
But I like the acronym though, and you know, you saying that kind of reminds me of that documentary that Wu-Tang had a couple of years back.
So good.
You know that they had that one scene where You God and him go back to where they used to work. And I remember watching it being like, man, Meth is a really nice guy. Or is this just because the cameras are on?
Remember the dude's name and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. You God, however, was like talking to the workers like, yo, I wouldn't fucking take that shit. Like kind of starting a revolt with the workers. How much they paying you? Oh, that's all. You know?
I mean, look, outside of lyrical ability and other things, you can look at all the guys in Wu-Tang Clan, and I'm not calling Wu-Tang out specifically, but I don't think it's an accident that the more successful, prominent guys in the group are also like sociable guys. Nice guys, like good human beings. I think that shit all contributes to the greater, you know, component of people's trajectories. You know what I'm saying? Let's get into the stats. This record came out November 17th, 1998. It spawned 2 singles, sold 411,000 copies in its first week, eventually going platinum. The record got, I would say, mixed reviews. Spin gave it an 8 out of 10. Entertainment Weekly gave it an A-. Rolling Stone gave it 2.5 stars. AllMusic gave it 2.5 stars. The Source review is, again, missing in action. I don't know if it's out there somewhere, or MidaZ at some point, if you can find that review, we'll sort of drop this in post. But we always like to ask, what is the current mic rating as the album currently stands, and how did you rank it when it first came out? So, Orion, where on the Source 5 mic scale do you put Tical 2000?
For me, I put it at 4 mics. For me, it's a 4 micer. Granted, there may be some personal nostalgia there that's affecting my rating of it and my love for it. If I were to come with a clean head, not with that nostalgia, maybe it would be a 3.7, but not too far off from 4 mics. So I will give it a 4 mic.
MidaZ?
I'm gonna say, man, this album's gonna be rough. I'm gonna go with a 3.5 from as it's currently constructed. The way I thought about it back then, even back then, I was like, there's a lot of fucking songs on here. And there was so many songs on here that I rarely made it through the end of the record. And I think that had a big effect on how I thought about the record, because there's actually a bunch of good songs at the end of the record, but I almost never got there. And I hate this about myself. I struggle with listening to albums out of order. Like, I listen to them linearly, and I always start at the beginning and I go through. And like this record, by the time I hit maybe the Donald Trump skit, like I'm out. And it wasn't even, whatever. It was just, damn, bro, how much more, like, what you got to, go through to get through this record. So it made it tough. So but I do think, even with 3.5, I think maybe of almost all the albums that we've done so far, this album will jump the most from the cuts. Like, it's probably going to be like, I mean, it's very possible that we could walk away going, this is a really good fucking record, bro. Like, type of shit. So we'll see.
I give it a 3. I think that the songs are all great. I just think as an album, it is not constructed well as an album. Like,
it's not at all.
And again, that is also reflective of my experience with it, where I wasn't listening to it a lot. I did get turned off by the very lengthy track listing. There are too many skits on it. Like, this doesn't exist in a nostalgic place for me, but in going back to it, I think that like it has all of the, it's like a coach like seeing its star player out on the field and being like, he's a mess right now, he's like scrappy, he's rough around the edges, but we can make him, we can make it, we can build him. So we're going to get into it. We're going to see. It's the 3-man vote, so we will go through. It takes 2 to keep or 2 to cut. And we're going to start with the first song. It is the Judgment Day intro, produced by Method Man. Can we talk about the paranoia that was like just seeping out of most, I would say most New York rappers? I don't even think you could say that this was happening regionally all over the place. There was something in the water in New York that everyone was terrified about the year 2000, the Y2K thing that you talked about before. It didn't age well. I mean, like, it's just, yeah, it didn't age well. I talked about this on another episode. Like, rap albums are not movies. It doesn't matter how movie-like they want to make it. Film is one thing, albums are another. Even if you're an incredible like artist or rapper, I just think it's usually a bad idea to try to insert film tropes into. If you I agree with you, but what I would say to that is if you're doing it like a film, that's not the way to go. You can inadvertently make a film, yes, out
of an album. Not right. On Cuban Links is a film,
sure, but
they didn't go into it like, all right, so we're gonna do all this type of like obvious, you know what I'm saying, like film things to me. You know what I mean? Like it just ends up that way. And I think there are some records that kind of end up that way. But you're right on the money when people are like, yeah, we're going to direct this and then we're going to turn it. It doesn't typically work out well. I will say this intro, it serves the purpose of setting the tone that he's trying to set on the record.
Yeah.
And if it would have stopped right where you stopped it just now, I still wouldn't keep it because we're only keeping 10, but I would be like, yeah, I kind of feel like you can have that 1, 2, that countdown and then Happy New, and then it jumps in, but it doesn't do that. So, I mean, either way, it's a cut. Maybe it could have sat in the front of Perfect World, and maybe, like we say all the time, it could have played a little different, but it's got to go.
Yeah, I think this was his Michael Bay attempt at starting his album. It's definitely a cut, and one thing is like you started it from a particular point in that intro, but if you listen to the very, very beginning of that intro, the audience, the ambiance that he has, I could have sworn it's the same audience ambiance sound effect that was used for Raekwon, a song called Heart to Heart off Immobilarity. like listening to this for this show and let me listen to that, because I always skip the intro. But listening to it, I'm like, yo, I've heard that same audience ambiance before. And I was like, and I went back to, because I was like, I know it's from a Ray album. And I went back, I'm like, yo, it sounds eerily similar. And Wu-Tang is notorious for this. They've done this before where they get like the same sound effects or the same like studio ambiance or whatever, and they put it on other people's albums. So I don't know,
you are one of 4 people on the planet who would have put that together.
That could sound like
you or 4 others.
That could sound like a cheap move, but because it's Wu-Tang, I imagine like there's some like golden drawer with the Wu logo emblazoned on it, and they like pull it open and like pull out like the hard drive that has and like it seems almost cooler that like, yes, we use the same sounds for consistency. Yeah, look, it's 28 songs. Unless this intro like changes lives, there's no way this was ever going to make the cut. So it just is what it is. All right, we're going to move on to track 2, produced by RZA. It is Perfect World.
I thought Perfect World was a great way to start the record. It's a great RZA beat in an era where we were getting less of those. It's a great RZA production. One of my favorite beats on the record. It's just got a vibe to it, and it really sits well as a, RZA. I think one of the things RZA needs to get props for as a producer. I mean, he gets a lot of props as a producer, but one of the things he should get props for is RZA's phenomenal with putting an album together and sequencing and those things, and knowing what joint is a great first song and that kind of thing. So, I mean, that joint is fire. I can't say nothing but good things about it. I wish that Method Man kept the scream ad-lib as like a theme throughout his whole career. Because the screams on that are just crazy fire. Like, imagine if he patented that like West Side Gun and like Rick Ross do with they stuff. Like, that shit would have been crazy. But big keep.
Probably would be harder for him to continue to do as he got older. Like the screams are a little, yeah. But yeah, the screams are great. So this is tough because in going through and doing my preliminary like picks, I have highlighted right now way more than 10. So I truly don't know how this one is gonna like shape up.
We just gotta go. I didn't do a list, by the way.
You didn't do a list.
I'm doing this live and direct.
Okay, I respect it, and I know you've operated that way before.
Yeah.
This is a great intro. I love parts of the beat, but I don't love the way, like, I wish the beat knocked a little bit harder, and I know that's not really always like in the pool of what RZA does. That's not necessarily what makes a great RZA beat. I'm
Method Man's listening.
Yeah, I know he's listening to all this. I'm sorry, Meth. Taking into consideration all podcasts to cap. I would say this is a keep. This is a keep that I'll say this is a keep that I imagine I will cut if we have to. So it's a keep for now.
I love Perfect World. I think it's a good track to open it up with, especially with the whole thing being dark and everything. This was a time where the chinks in the wu-tang sound was starting to show. Like, there was a lot of albums that came before this. Capadonna, Killer Priest, the Killer Beast Swarm album, the Killer Army album, and people were starting to question the Wu sound a little bit. But Perfect World is a good RZA beat. I think it's dope. It's a keeper for me.
Short and sweet.
Love it. All right, we're going on to our next track. It is Cradle Rock featuring Left Eye and Booster, produced by LB the Life Bringer.
My only knock on Cradle Rock is I don't know what was Meth's obsession on this album with nursery rhymes, like incorporating nursery rhymes in the most hardcore way. So he had Ring Around the Rosie like at least 3 times in this album.
Yeah.
Where he said it on 3 different songs.
Is it just this? I mean, this is kind of Method Man from 92.
Oh, no, the song's a keeper. I'm keeping it.
I'm saying like Meth did the nursery rhyme thing in the.
Oh yeah,
this always kind of what he does.
You're right. He's always been that guy.
Yeah.
Left Eye, I wish he would have actually rapped on this.
I wish too, bro. She would have kept it.
That would have been dope. And another reason I want to keep it is because it's got Booster. So Booster is featured on this song, and Booster is the dude at the end with the reggae chant. I don't know why he changed his name, the name you mentioned earlier, Sean, but Booster was the dude that did the reggae chant on Bring the Pain.
Right.
And it was like good to bring him back. Meth has a lot of callbacks, like you mentioned earlier, the screaming on Perfect World. He did that on Tical as well, so he has a lot of like tossbacks to like the first album, but this is a keeper for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo and say this is a keep for me. You got to remember, man, we would get these CDs and we would look at these track lists before we listen to them, and you're like, Left Eye? What the fuck? Like, I just remember being like, Left Eye? Like, this is one of the most like scratch your head like features when you just look at the track list being in that era. Like, what? Right. And it sounds so natural for Left Eye. Right. This don't even sound like some forced shit, which is, I would love to hear the story of how this record came together, because this song in particular came together, because it just seems so natural. Like, yo, I want to get you on here and you could do the hook with me and talk shit at the end. And that was a great selection, great choice for, she just fits perfect. I wish her and Meth had the opportunity to do a couple more joints, because I think there was chemistry in this record, even without her rapping.
Was there any like wu-tang TLC like cross-pollination that I'm not remembering? Like this literally seems like this is
a flash in the pan.
Right, yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah, and it was like, damn, this is, I mean, again, she didn't even rap and there's chemistry. You know,
right.
Even just vocal chemistry and then whatever. So I loved it. So this is my favorite Meth era as far as his style goes. To me, this is the best version of Method Man. When you, like, right now, there's a lot of people that say today, like, Meth's better than he ever was. And as a pure, like, lyric-to-lyric lyricist, I would agree. Mm-hmm. But as much as he's gotten better lyrically, there's a piece of me that wishes for some of the flavor that Meth had back in this era.
Right.
And the flow on this joint is wild. Like, and that was the thing. Meth, I think, was like, yo, bro, first of all, it's not my steed to do all this storytelling and all this and all that. But like the magic is in my flow, the magic is in the voice. And like I can kind of just rap because I have those advantages that, you know, these other MCs don't have. And it's clear here. Blacked out, I thought I seen pop, lazy bean glock. Like the way he's bouncing all throughout the verse is crazy. So yeah, and we're gonna talk about Meth flow on this album a lot. I mean, he's in his bag crazy on this. So big keep for me.
Heavy style, like just heavy style, and not as a crutch for not being a good writer either. Again, yeah, you could say maybe he wasn't like crafting stories and doing things that were more linear, but it's just top-notch, top-level rapping. And I don't have a whole lot to add. This was also a keep for me. I could have seen a world where the record starts with this as well, because I'm a bit more of the mind that I really want to get like beat up by the drums. You know what I'm saying? And this song definitely has those harder knocking drums. I love Left Eye on it as well. It's also great to have a little feminine energy on a record that's mostly a dude-filled apocalyptic record. So like, doesn't hurt. Yeah, it's a keep. It's a unanimous keep for the group. That means
Orion.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, brother. LB, the Life Bringer?
The producer of the track.
Yeah, I've never heard of the dude. I mean,
okay,
you know, Wu-Tang was starting to reach out to dudes outside of Fourth Disciple, True Master.
Yeah.
I think this was like the beginning of that.
Sean, you know anything? LB, the Life Bringer?
I know that I've never heard the name before or since, but I'm looking on Discogs. Discogs literally only has this song under his credits.
Okay. Shout out LB the Life Bringer. It's a fire beat. I wish we would have got a couple more. LB.
Yeah, I have no clue.
One thing before we go to the next track. Meth was ahead of his time with one particular line, and that's where he says, he mentions Independence Day. The way he finessed it, it's a simile, but he just took out the word like, and it's something that Drake would later on come to do very often, and people would credit him as like genius for it. But Meth, and the only other person I heard do that prior to Meth doing it is Q-Tip. But I wanted to throw that out there because it was on my notes and shit.
That means we're going on to track number 4. It's Dangerous Ground featuring Street Life, produced by True Master.
That's the joint that I heard through a phone, and my uncle, shout out my uncle Anthony, was going crazy on the other line. Yo, screaming, yo, this new Method Man, yo, listen. And I'm like, what the fuck? This brings me to the second star of this album. And I'm gonna throw a dart at you though. It's not Street Life. It's True Master. This is the True Master album. Like True Master's best beats are all over this record. Like there's crazy True Master production on this record, and this was the I thought, you know, with RZA pulling back around this time and not doing so much production for everybody. I thought his pairing of Method Man and True was a hand in glove. Like, True Master makes perfect beats for Method Man. And yeah, so this joint's out of control. This Street Life plays he plays Ghostface to Raekwon and Cuban Links type of scenario on the whole record. This is the first time we get the Street. Meth and Street have a great chemistry on the whole album. On this track, the energy of this track is out of control. We just never heard beats that sound like that.
It's probably
before.
my favorite beat on the record. Like, it just is undeniable. It's a keep for me as well. I could have seen a world in which, if I didn't like the preceding two other songs as much, this could also be a crazy first track. Or a crazy second track. And it's a crazy third track if you like discount the intro. Yeah, this is great. You cannot cut this record.
Yeah, I remember when I caught this album. Remember back in the days when you got the CD, it came with a sticker on it. Yeah. That the sticker usually named like the two
focus tracks. Yeah.
Dangerous Ground was named on it. So I was always waiting for like a music video of it or something. And I was blown away when I heard it. The beat is bouncing off the walls on it, and both of them kill it. Perfect performances. The beat actually got a new breath of life a couple of years back when Corey Guns had that freestyle. I don't know if it was on Funk Flex or what, but
yeah.
When Corey Guns did that freestyle over this beat, I was just like, it was similar to Black Thought rapping over the Burn Mobb Deep beat. It really brought this beat back and gave it new life. Definite keeper.
Yeah. Could you imagine, listeners, watchers to our podcast, can you imagine hearing this for the first time in '98? This rang. This was a ringer. I'm in high school. Me and my guys were like, yo, you heard the Meth yesterday? Yo, did you hear that joint with Street Life? Like, what the fuck is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it
also a time,
so
a time when somebody could say that, and it couldn't be the type of thing where like, yo, did you hear the Meth yesterday? Here, let me play it for you right now. It was
oh
like,
my God.
Did you catch the Meth yesterday? Did you like get wind of this? And then like it has this mystique where you have to go find it now. Whatever you have to do to find this like not officially sanctioned released single. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's crazy.
It's tough.
We're gonna move on to track number 5. We're gonna take a quick commercial break here. The Question's very own MidaZ the BEAST, the latest full-length album, The Last of the Mohicans, is available now exclusively at midnightsocietymusic.net. The Last of the Mohicans, which you can get at midnightsocietymusic.net. The album features Planet Asia, Tri-State, Superstition, Yara, Tsarism, and Shinobi Stalin, few Making Illmatic alumni right there, among others. And there's also production by Oh No, Fourth Disciple, I Make Mad Beats, Gensu Dean, the late great Peyton Locke, and many, many more. You can get Last of the Mohicans exclusively at midnightsocietymusic.net. They've got a digital album option as well as a limited edition movie poster for the album.
Lemonade was popular, men behaving proper, that's the Tonka. I'm up top prescribing hearing aids to opera stars. Jamiroquai, Jarobi, remix patterns, we labbing Captain, fuck whatever protest you sat in. We on ships to Saturn, let off Mario game flower shits. We brought the basement to Tower Records, uppercuts with black power picks.
Again, go to midnightsocietymusic.net to get MidaZ the BEAST's latest album, The Last of the Mohicans. That's midnightsocietymusic.net. The holiday season is upon us, and if you're like me, you've got some music lovers in your life and you just don't know what to get them. They've got every album they could possibly want. Buying clothing for someone else is a fool's errand, and a gift certificate is just impersonal and wrong. But what if I told you there was a 300 card game featuring some of the best hip-hop trivia that has ever been created, if I can say so myself. Questions and conversation starters for the most casual hip-hop head in your life, as well as the type of absolute rap maniacs who listen to a podcast like this every week. That's right, I'm talking about my own game, the Questions Hip-Hop Trivia, available everywhere, courtesy of the good folks at Clarkson Potter and Penguin Random House. Go to questionshiphop.com to buy your copy of the game, which is sure to ring off at any holiday party you go to this year. There's questions about Migos. There's questions about artifacts. There are very few games out there that have this type of range. The Questions Hip Hop Trivia card game. Go to questionshiphop.com to pick up your copy. Even if you already have a copy of your own, you can gift it to someone and they will have an absolutely great item for their desk, bookshelf, wherever you want to do some hip-hop trivia. You can use at your own discretion. Go to questionshiphop.com to buy your copy today. For a while, I've thought about the idea of promoting other podcasts on this podcast, and maybe it's the holiday season and I'm feeling that spirit of giving and kindness, and maybe I'm also inspired by the fact that the show I'm about to plug also does this on his show. So let me tell you about the Best Rapper in LA podcast, hosted by Merce. He's a hip-hop legend. I said to him once, he's lived more life in his time on Earth than most people ever will. He's released dozens of albums on every label you can think of. He's created the Paid Dues Festival, worked with everybody in the business, and if you know his music, you know that he is already a masterful storyteller, which is why his podcast, Best Rapper in LA, is a must listen. Best Rapper in LA gives a detailed account of the history of Merce's career, album by album. Hosted and narrated by Merce himself, the podcast details the story behind his massive discography and makes the case for why he is the best rapper in LA. He's currently up to his first Def Jux album, The End of the Beginning, on the podcast, and he's taking his time with it. You're getting a couple songs per episode that he breaks down, and it is such a fascinating and informative listen. I can't recommend it enough. Listen to the Best Rapper in LA podcast wherever you get your pods. All right, it's time to get back to the show. Track number 5, it is Sweet Love Skit. Yeah.
Put that on the front of the song. It fits the song.
Yeah.
It's not obnoxious. You know,
it fits the song. I'll be honest, Sean. Never really realized that wasn't a part of the song.
You wouldn't have enough time to skip it if you wanted to. You know what I mean?
It's cut, obviously, but
it's cut.
Yeah, it's cut.
Yeah. All right. I think this is gonna be the episode that has the shortest discussions on some of these, because like what can we say? Track number 6, produced by True Master. It's Sweet Love, not the skit, but just the song, featuring Capadonna and Street Life.
Love is love, love, love is love, love. This joint, I think we're doing pretty good so far, man. Like, I dig this beat. You know, coming off of that high of Dangerous Ground and then going into something like this is dope. And I think everybody killed their verses. Capadonna's verse is kind of short, but I don't mind it so much. And you know, the one thing that I had to research, because Meth is like the definition of cool, so he gets away with so much, you know what I mean? And he has this one thing, with this one line, he goes, "Girl, you Shay La Fra." And I had to, like, for the first time in like 20, 30 years, however old this album is, I was like, yo, what exactly did he mean? Because I always just thought it was like some cool shit that Meth obviously knows. And there's, much to my surprise, there's a lot of debate online as to what the hell he meant by that. Rap Genius says it's like some Italian phrase or some French phrase relating to romantic episodes. That's kind of what I always got from it, but there's a whole bunch of arguments going on about what he meant. With that said, this is a keeper for me.
I'm gonna say I really like this beat, and it's great. Like, I do like the Capadonna verse on this as well. This is where we start to get into this thing where there's 28 songs and we got to keep 10. I do think that there are better Wu collaborations on this record, And maybe it is because of like the pacing of coming off the crazy energy of Dangerous Ground, and this is a little bit more subdued. This is a reluctant and pained in my heart cut.
Put me in a spot, didn't you?
I did.
This is like this album's Kame. There's not a lot of these throughout the Wu catalog, especially at that time. By the time 98 hit, I mean, it's probably this and Kame. You know what I'm saying? There's probably not very many of these type of joints in the catalog. I love the beat on this. True Master is shining. It's a crazy beat. I don't love Meth as much on this song. It's not my favorite Meth on the album, but I love Street Life and Capadonna on the record. I think this is one of Street Life's best performances he ever had on a Wu-Tang song, period. You ever ride while you drive? I look puzzled. It's on the nah, baby, why? She pressed up. Like, that whole scheme is bananas. Like, it's fire. And Street Life goes crazy on this. So, let me look at this track.
See, you should have made a list before.
No. I'm going to keep it.
Gonna keep? All right.
I'm going to keep it. It's one of the songs that I think of when you talk about the album.
Well, then
that's the Man album. Sweet Love is top of my thought process.
Yeah, then of course you have to keep it then. Like, yeah, if it's synonymous with the album.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on then to track 7, produced by Fourth Disciple. It's Shaolin What Skit.
Oh God, this album's gonna be rough, man. I low key, I don't even want to go through the rest of this shit.
You're just gonna quit?
Yo, this might be the first episode that I just quit, bro. How many songs have we kept so far?
We've kept 4. So we're almost at the 50% mark of our capacity here.
There's 28 songs in this shit.
This is like being the bouncer at a very exclusive nightclub and being told you can let 5 of your best friends in, and your entire like graduating high school class shows up, and you want to let them all in. And what are you gonna do? This is an interlude. This is a skit. It's an interlude, so it feels like a little inconsequential. But I have to say that it's so potent in how short it is that it kind of makes me like it more. And again, I really like those. This isn't an original concept. I like knocking drums. I like hard drums. This like beat definitely has it. Meth is styling on it. He's like spazzing like on it. Just like the crazy flavor is just like it's palatable on. Hey, I'm just gonna say it. I vote to keep it. It's a keep for me.
It's not a skit. Come on, Method Man. It's not a fucking skit. In 1998, any song that only had one verse, you were like, it's not a song, it's only one verse. Like, that's kind of what the Steez was. But if this song would have came out today, this would have been the single. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what we do nowadays. It's just crazy. Wild Fourth Disciple beat on this. Shout out Fourth Disciple and True Master, man. Like, the Wu-Tang unsung heroes, those two guys. And it's a keep.
I know we're keeping a lot right now. I think the cuts become easier as the album progresses. I would suspect you guys will be cutting tracks much later, like kind of my notes indicate too. This one actually, like, my only knock on this track is that it's so short.
Sure.
There's no Ghostface on this album. And I would have loved to have Ghostface on this song. Wow. Just make this a little bit longer and put Ghostface on it. That's something that, but with that said, it's still fucking fire. And that piano or organ that Fourth Disciple has going kind of reminds me of like EPMD. They got this one track where Eric Sermon goes da 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 da. Like, I don't know, it has like that same melody or chord progression or whatever, and it's a keeper, man. It's a keeper.
We're loving this album. We're being really we're being really soft on it, but we'll see. We're gonna run out of space, is what I'm saying. We're moving on to track number 8. It's another one produced by True Master. It's Torture. Why is this album not beloved?
Yo, Torture Orion. This was one of those records like Dangerous Ground in high school. Dudes was like torture. Like, yo, that torture record. Like, then he had the iconic line on there. Who got John Blaze shit? Sucking my dick to get famous. So I switched Blaze to Dangerous. Like, yo, keep, man. What the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, man. And the beat is so fire. You know what I love about this beat are the percussions. That he's got all these percussions going crazy. It reminds me of like back to Tical. I Get My Thing in Action has a lot of like dope percussion work on it that is rarely seen like on wu-tang tracks. So this is a definite keeper for me. I do remember back in the days, The Source had an article with Meth where he broke down each and every song on this album.
Wow.
And they did that a couple of times in those issues in 98, 99. I had that issue. Man, I couldn't find that issue.
I bet you I have it in here if I knew which one it was.
I wish I knew which one it was. I tried researching it online. Couldn't find it, but he broke down each song. Yeah, he broke down each one. And the one thing I will say about this song that I think is kind of funny, though, is this is the one song, I put this in my notes, where Meth decides, like, I am going to lay claim on any alias with Johnny. So he's like, Johnny Dangerous, John J, J Basic, Johnny Storm, Johnny Come Lately.
Yeah.
He's like, every single Johnny alias is mine. So it's a keeper, man.
Parking on the Johnnies. MidaZ, I want to shout out your useless source collection, which, like, this is like the second or third time you've been like, yeah, man, I have that issue. I just, you know, I'd have to go over and grab it, and I don't know where it is. So, you know, like, you know, yeah. No, I know you have them. I see you have them.
Yo, it could be the one with Red and Meth on the cover.
He didn't have his headphones in.
I think it could be that one.
He thinks it's the one with Red and Meth on the cover.
I have that one too. Yeah, that was in here. But yeah, I know, bro. It's been 20-something years. I don't remember what's.
That's fair. That's fair.
By the way, I saw a Source online today. A Source magazine on eBay for $40. And I just want to be clear that I have probably about 100 issues of the Source in here, maybe a little over 100. And these are, most of them are my original issues of the Source. Most of my original issues of the Source are with all the other things that I had growing up, and God knows where those things ever ended up. But I ended up buying all 100 and I think 130 issues of the Source for $40 on Craigslist.
What?
Like, yo, here's the wild shit. Just a quick side note to that. So I was on a hunt for old Source magazines, and a good friend of Sean and I's, Varys Tower, he has a huge magazine collection. And I used to tell Varys, like, bro, and Varys has doubles of like everything. And I remember being like, yo, Varys, bro, like, what can I pay you for like some of those doubles? Like, give me the double. And he was like, I gotta have the doubles and shit. So Varys was on a hunt to complete his Rat Pages collection. And stumbled on a Craigslist posting that was selling Rat Pages and Source magazines, but he had all the Source magazines already. So he's like, yo, go half. It was $80. He's like, yo, go half on this with me, and then I'll just give you all the sources. And I was like, hell yeah. So that's how I came up on this, and I put them all in bags, and they're well preserved, and yeah, it's crazy. So I probably have like 130 episode issues of the Source.
I want to give a shout out to Brian Nagata, who runs Rap Zine's account. He's based in the Bay. This guy has literally almost every copy of any rap magazine that has ever been published. He has brought it out and like helped curate museums and exhibits that have this stuff. Definitely go check out his account. He's on Instagram at Rap Zines. Salute to you guys with your crazy fucking priorities of collecting things. I respect it. I wasn't ever able to hang, unfortunately. You know, there's a box of them, I think, in my mom's garage, and every maybe like 3 to 6 months she calls me and she sort of starts to hint at the fact that she wants to throw them out, and I beg her not to. but I don't have a solid game plan for him. So I don't know. But what are we doing here? Are you cutting or keeping Torture?
Who was going on that? That wasn't me, right? It wasn't me.
Well, I mean, Orion said that he was keeping.
I'm keeping it, even with Meth saying in the beginning, top cats with top hats. Still keep.
It's a keep.
My vote was not to keep, but only again because this is about economy. This is about space, and I'm not convinced that all of these that we're keeping are going to stay kept, because now we're already at 6 out of our 10, and we are 8 songs into the record.
There's some roughness coming though.
Okay. You're not talking about that Shaolin roughness that the Wu-Tang were known for. You're talking about a different kind of roughness.
There's a couple rough things coming. This is definitely going to be one of those where we keep probably more than 10 and have to cut, but there's still some roughness.
All right. We're going to move on then to track number 9. It's the Where's Method Man skit featuring Ed Lover.
I always like that part. Doom, doom, yeah, it's cut.
Yeah, it's a cut.
It's a cut. Meth was just a real nice guy. He had to put everybody on this album.
It's not as far as rap skits that are trying to be funny. It's not the least funny rap skit I've ever heard. Like, it's amusing. You're working with Ed Lover, at least. Yeah. He's but yeah.
Doom, doom, this is cool. I like it.
He gave us Doom Ha. Come on.
He gave us Doom Ha.
All right. Track 10, produced by the RZA. Suspect Chin music featuring Street Life.
This album sucks.
What did you say? Oh, they said this album sucks. I was like, wait, what?
Well, no, I did say this album sucks, but it sucks for what we're doing. This album sucks. I love Suspect Chin music, bro.
Yeah,
that was another one that we talked about a lot in school. Meth and Street Life bouncing back and forth off each other is crazy. I always thought that the beat sounded like bees, like
because that kind of kazoo sound in there.
Yeah, that kazoo thing. I always kind of thought that was like
bugged out beat.
Or whatever.
It's a bugged out beat. Yeah,
it's wild. Like it's RZA definitely is one of the producers of all time that has like the real what is that beats in his catalog. Like he's got a bunch of those like. What is this one ass beat? We've never heard nothing like it before or after or at the time. Like it's just the strangest thing. And he does that a lot, but this one's a keep for me too. After this, it starts getting rough. This is a keep for me too.
This was a reluctant cut for me. I like it. Again, I don't have anything really bad to say about it, except that I do believe that there are 10 other songs that are better than this on the record, and that's all I can really say. That's all I can say. Of course, it's great. Of course, you want to savor the moments of greatness where you have Meth rocking over RZA beats, but yeah, this was a
conflict. Much out here, bro. That's tough.
What'd you say?
There's much of that on here. It's tough.
Yeah, exactly. It's a conflicted cut.
So you, Orion?
You know, there's a few things.
You better represent Hialeah on this, man. Don't let Hialeah down.
Well, look, man. There's a few things I always do when I'm recording, and especially like if I'm with another engineer that I don't know too well, and saying things like adjust the level on my thing. Like before I start my verse, if the engineer don't get that, like I'm like, this might not.
That's a thing. That's been a thing for years.
It's a thing, and also I always do the kicking it from the top, from the how high.
Yep. Yeah.
Now with that said, the landscape of this album and so much material we gotta go through. I was never a huge fan of Suspect.
Oh man.
I think it's a hesitant cut. It's not a bad song, but looking at the whole scheme of this album, I'm cutting. I gotta cut it. I'm sorry, MidaZ. Sorry.
This is a tough one.
We solemnly stroke our chins as a tribute to Suspect Chin music. Part Pour one out for the suspect homie.
We never get, if this is up to you guys, we never get adjust the treble on my thing. That never happens. That moment is lost in time. It hurts.
That's the thing about the conceit of this show. Are we saying that we're going back in time and that these things never happened? Like, I'm not convinced that that's actually what we do on here. It was never completely clear, but yeah.
I came up with the fucking idea. The song, it ceases to exist. It is stricken from the record when we cut it. Now, this would have been a good record. This would have, on some real shit though, this would have been a great, this is another one that would have been a great soundtrack record. Great soundtrack record.
Could have been on the Ghost Dog soundtrack.
It could have been on the Ghost Dog. Any Wu-Tang song could have been on the Ghost Dog soundtrack. But like High School High, like this could have been a High School High.
Absolutely, you know? Would have been like a cherished gem on a 90s high school soundtrack or 90s soundtrack.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we must persevere. We're moving on to track 11. We got another RZA production. It is Retro Godfather. All right. I'm going to say it. What am I going to say? Hey, if you're looking at your clock, you may have noticed we're about 80 minutes in and we aren't even halfway through this album yet. It is a massive undertaking to really unpack Tical 2000. And so if you want to hear the rest of this episode, and by the way, the second half of this album is even crazier. You're going to have to hop on over to the Patreon to hear the rest. Patreon.com/thequestionshiphop, or hit the show notes for a link. Find out which 10 songs make it onto our final version of the album. Hear more stories that I've got from the years that I worked with Method Man. Find out why MidaZ, Orion, and I almost shut down the whole recording because things got a little heated. It got a little pointed. You're going to have to go to Patreon to hear the rest. Shout out to the Stony Island Audio Podcast Network. Shout out to MidaZ and Zarism for doing the show's theme. Shout out to the Patreon, and I'll see you over at the Patreon now where you can hear the rest of the episode. Thanks.